Hi guys, Fleet Feet back with another war selection video, this time covering a European opening into swordsmen, though this build could easily be adapted into any of the other European Iron Age tech. You could go axemen easily, you could go legionnaires if you wanted to, you could go rams, any of the European Iron Age tech that is viable to play, or even some of it that isn't, is well open to you. I was very tempted to, in this guide, go rams, just because I actually love them as units, and I think they're really fun and funny to play. But I have recently done a ram rush build already, and this one isn't that divergent from it, so I decided not to. You will notice in this opening, as you will notice in pretty much every war selection opening from a good player, we send the first couple of woodworkers to go build a hut. We get 8 dudes on berries pretty much as soon as possible. We get one guy building huts across and in potentially defensive locations, kind of guessing based on how the map is laid out. As soon as we get to 120 food, or one thereabouts, we'll start that firewood upgrade on our first warehouse that we built behind our berries. This is all kind of like very standard. The first 3 or 4 minutes of a war selection game is pretty similar regardless of what you're planning on doing. It can change a little bit depending on what you see, like if you see yourself with a whole bunch of wood, or with a bunch of extra cows, or with fish that your workers can go fish, then that can change your build up a little bit. But for the most part, I like to try to keep guides like this at a... I will generally ignore the extra resources there, so you don't have to watch a guide where it's like, oh look, I found 2,000 extra food and free cows, and then I did this cool build at this cool timing. No, I'll generally just ignore the extra bits of food if I stumble across them, just so I can have like a reliable executable build that you can follow along if you want to. So what we've done here is we've gotten up to when we're at around 20 supply, we want to start throwing down our first warehouse on wood, because that's about when we'll have too many people already on one wood line. And as part of this build, do not be shy in throwing up warehouses willy-nilly, trying to set them up against wood lines, trying to keep your workers away from each other so they're not bumping into each other and always clustered. Also, just try and, as a general rule, try and always set yourself up defensively with your temple. Try put it in the back, put it in a protectable location, surround it with houses if you can. There's a lot of builds that are looking to snipe your TC, so the further back and the more defended you can put it in your base, generally the better. As for what we're looking to do in this build now, I'm actually starting, you'll notice right there, I'm starting the berry food upgrade, or the firewood upgrade, really late. I had 300 something food by the time I started it. I was like almost a full minute late on it. It's actually a pretty big mistake, and you'll see in a few seconds here that start to take effect. So the firewood ropes upgrade, it increases the rate at which your woodworkers all gather wood, obviously, and it actually does it at a fairly substantial rate, and considering you'll have some 15 workers on wood at that point, it's a lot of wood that you just miss by getting it late. And here it's a pretty big mistake for me to get it late. Like you see, I'm on 0 wood. I've got to finish that hut so I don't get supply blocked, but I just get supply blocked, or did on the previous hut, and that's just because I started that upgrade late. I also did start the berry picking upgrade. It's part of this build. That's generally, once you get to around that 29-30 workers, 29 to 30 workers on the map, you have enough of a wood income, depending on how your warehouses are set up, to afford working on your temple and working on getting that berry picking upgrade. Also, as you're up, you'll have a food problem generally, so you want to get as much as you can out of those berries. Whereas Asia, you can transition into a poultry yard quicker. As Europe, you want as much of that free food as you can get, because your workers are more expensive to upgrade. So we've started our temple as before, kind of whenever we want to. But the timing that we're looking for our temple, as with the European 35 warrior build, is not when we... So generally in this build, you're going to want to start your upgrade into bronze age at anywhere between 37 to 40, probably just 40 food, or 40 supply. That's as far as you can make it. If you delay it any more than that, you'll simply just run out of food as Europe. There's a limited supply of food in the starting berries. There's 10 patches at 300 each, so 3,000 food, and it takes you, you get to build up to 40 workers. If you start the temple research at 40 supply, you're going to build 40 workers on top of the 10 that you start with. So that's 2,000 of your 3,000 food gone already. Never mind upgrading them afterwards. So I find that just pushing it a little bit earlier and starting your temple upgrade at 37 or 38 supply so that you'll build 47 or 48 workers, or have 47 or 48 workers, just gives you a little bit more wiggle room on the food. You don't have to strain the last of your berries to get your 14 workers up for your eventual farm. As you've seen, other things that are going on. There was an unfortunate boar over there that murdered the crap out of one of my workers trying to build a hut. I've got this guy who is doing that thing where sometimes your workers decide to try path around the entire forest and harvest the other side of it. It's annoying, but he sacrificed himself to a cat. I've lost a couple of workers. It's fine. I'm also starting up a stonecutter and some fight pits. You can build anywhere from 0 to 5 fight pits, or 6 fight pits if you wanted to. I generally build them for the theoretical, just in case a bunch of stone warriors are scouted running at my base. Then I can panic, start building slingers, or start building some defense. As Europe, it's going to screw up your timing horribly, and you can't really afford it, but it's also better than being dead, so I don't mind building them sooner rather than later. Here, we just hit Bronze Age timing. I had 14 workers, as I did in the Asian build. I had them pre-selected so that I could immediately select and upgrade specifically them. Then I will get them all to return the wood that they are carrying and start building that farm for me so I can start getting a wood supply. You'll see that my other workers I have not started upgrading them. I'm just going to leave them be. The Stone Age woodworkers actually gather wood just as fast as the Iron Age ones, so I'm not too stressed about upgrading them. And you'll also notice that I am not going to get the population upgrade. I don't have the tools to defend myself with units right now. If I need to defend myself, I need to defend myself with towers, which at this timing I currently can't do, and it's part of Europe not having that food supply. But I definitely don't have the food right now to get the population upgrade. I need that food to upgrade my workers to keep my economy online. So I'm just going to skip it. I would rather get my Iron Age timing first on 50 to 60 workers, whatever I can fit in that number, and defend myself purely with towers if I have to, mostly with the hope that I don't just get murdered. And in team games, you have a much more freedom in that. I wouldn't recommend doing this build or any European build on the front line. It's just more difficult to do, and you don't have the tools to defend yourself. Like, you're going to be vulnerable to warrior pressure. And Asia can always do warrior pressure and then transition out of it easier because they have lower food costs overall. Even if you're doing a European spears timing, you still can get undercut by a warrior timing and have the warriors coming before your upgrades or your spears are ready and just kill you before you can do anything. So easier is to just not play Europe on the front line. It's doable, you can do it, it's just not recommended. It's easier to play Asia on the front line. They fare way better in Stonecutter versus Stone Age versus Stone Age tech, and they transition out of it smoother with fewer casualties overall. That aside, setting up myself now, I'm going to be looking to get 14 workers on metal, and I'm going to look at getting 12 to 14 workers on food, and I'm going to have the rest of my guys on wood. You only need 8 to keep up with the Iron Age or the Iron timing, but I'll be getting the basic armor upgrade in the now Forge, previously Stonecutter. I'll be getting the basic iron armor upgrade because it applies to swordsmen, which is what I'm going for. And I'll also be getting a bunch of iron research upgrades as soon as we hit Iron Age. in addition to the swordsmen themselves. So 14 is kind of the number that, after playing around a little bit, feels like the right economy, where I don't run out of iron and I don't have a wild surplus of iron. Unfortunately, my dudes keep getting attacked by wild animals, but again, a little micro, you'll be fine. By a little micro, I mean accidentally telling all of your workers to go kill that fucking tiger, but you'll be fine. At least here we can see setting my economy back up with what I want. There's the 16 food workers. The rest of these guys would. There's 11 on that patch there, if I remember correctly, and then there's 11 there, and then there's way too many down there. Yeah, we got this. Iron Age finished. Let's get back to panicking. Gonna start population upgrade, gonna start my swords upgrade, gonna start a number of barracks that get me to 6 total barracks. After my population upgrade is done, I want to get my worker number up to 60, and I also want to get every single possible upgrade that I can get. Because I'm going to get the population upgrade now, and I'm going to get somewhere between 3 to 8 workers, depending on how I did earlier and how many workers I lost to random dumb stuff. I'm going to spend a decent amount of time in the Iron Age before I age up. So, if I'm spending a decent amount of time in the Iron Age, it's better to get these upgrades than it is if I'm just going to immediately go from Iron Age into Middle East. I always do that. The early Middle Ages. So, get both warehouse upgrades, get the upgrade that's on your farm, get the swordsman damage upgrade in addition to the obviously get the swords upgrade. Just grab them all on your way through. As you can see, we've already gotten the armor upgrade, so we don't need to worry about that. It does help a little bit for the swordsman, so I figure I might as well get it earlier. And yeah, as soon as our 6 barracks are done, we are going to queue up our 30 warriors, because as you can do the math for, we're set up to have 90 of 90 population, we're set up to have 60 workers, and we're set up to have 30 swordsmen then. And the way that this is all set up is that they should pop out at around 14 minutes and 30 seconds is when our final set of swordsmen are done. We're more than ready to attack before that if we wanted to. We could attack on the first 18. I generally use the first, or when I've been testing this, I'll use the first 12 to run around and clear animals from annoying spots. I don't know if that's necessarily good, but that's what I've been doing. It seems okay. Also, again, in this build, just to kind of demonstrate how the build would defend itself, I just put up a bunch of towers, because that means that if I do get a weird late storm or a weird late Stone Age push on me, look, I have towers to defend myself. I can just load workers into buildings and we'll probably be okay. But yeah, at this point, the basics of the build are done. If you can see that you could have this exact same layout, and you could be going Legionnaires, though you'd need some 20 plus workers on iron. You could go axemen. You'd need to adjust slightly because you'd be using more wood, though I think you're using about the same amount of iron over time. But in this case, I'm just going swordsmen because I'm not looking to have an actual fun meaty army. I'm just looking to go snipe some people's TCs. So I'm going to build 30 swordsmen and go find their TCs and try chop them in half. That's all this build is. So yeah, hopefully you found this helpful and given you some tips on how to open into Europe in a safe-ish way, as safe as Europe can, without sacrificing your economy at all. I definitely wouldn't recommend doing this build on anything resembling a frontline. In this case I do, but it's a 3v3 game, so the odds of good players being on the other team aren't that high. But yeah, if you're midline or backline and you want to go Europe because you want to play France or you want to play Russia or you want to play Germany or whatever, this is a build that will get you at least to this 15-minute mark in the game, will give you an attack that you can do on someone, and will have set you up with 60 workers, and you can kind of go wherever you want from here. One of the big stupid things that I accidentally stumbled across, I'd heard tales of this really like amazing and terrible Landschnet timing that you can do, and that the units are stupidly broken. I've been playing around with that a couple of times, and oh my god, are they stupidly broken. Like, they have an absurd amount of armor for the timing that you can get them. So you could actually do this exact build, go from this point directly into Western Europe, and then as soon as this is done, just upgrade one of your barracks all the way up to the Royal Barracks. So you can upgrade all of these guys to Landschnet, and then just do a 30 Landschnet timing. You have more than the economy you need to get the food and metal required to upgrade all 30 of them at once. And then you just have this big, stupid, stompy army that you could run over someone's base with. In this case, because it's been a bit of a week for me and I wanted to just push out a video, I didn't bother doing that for this particular video. But yeah, there's TC number 1. We're gonna go run on over. Again, like with the 35 warrior build, I have a specific thing that these units are supposed to do. That's part of the strategy. Is, hey, they're there to snipe TCs. That's their job. So I will make them do just that, and they won't dick around and knock over houses. They won't do any weird harassment stuff. They're just gonna go, and they're just gonna hit the main building and hope the main building falls over. Yeah, in chat, again, because it's just a small 3v3 game, I feel kind of bad for doing this in games. I don't like to play games quite this way. I would rather have the fighty, run armies into each other and have my opponents feel like they get to play a game. But again, I was just trying to crush out a video, so I was grinding games, figuring out some of the minutiae of the build, and just setting myself up to give you guys a good clean entrance into, like, this is how you can open as Europe, and how you can do it safely, and how you can not screw up any of the major fundamental things. And that took me some games to figure out, because it's been a while since I've played Europe, and boy does it feel terrible compared to Asia. Just as far as, like, flexibility and how safe you can feel as Asia when building, whereas with Europe, a lot of these games, even worse earlier on when I was figuring out these builds, a lot of these games are just like, well, I hope nobody attacks me before 10 minutes, because if they do, I just fucking die. Yeah, now I have a few more tools to sort of half-ass defend some things, so if it's a bad warrior rush, I can actually defend it, but if a good player actually warrior rushes me, like in this game, if they had run at me with basically anything before 10 minutes, I don't have enough things to defend it without making the timing that I was going for completely worthless. So, yeah, jury's out on that and how you actually do that. If any of the other good players are watching and they have a good build that gets you safely to, like, if you have something that makes me look like an idiot, please do hit me up with a link, show me, make a video, demonstrate how I'm dumb and you could do this build or a timing similar to this build in a totally safe way, where you get to go, like, spears beforehand, like you make 20 European spears at 8 minutes or something and are actually safe and still hit a 15 or 16 minute swordsman timing. I haven't really figured out how to get there. It just feels like Europe has that food problem coming out of Stone Age, and it doesn't feel like there's any way around that unless you find fish or find some other source of food to get past the fact that your starting berries will only ever be 3,000 food, and half of that, if not more, is going to go to your worker count. Yeah. 3v3. Killed 3 buildings. All of them were town centers. Sorry, enemies. Sorry, allies. Nobody got to have any fun that game. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I will catch you all later.